I'm Rosalind Benoit, and I work on the Spinnaker community and other open source initiatives at Armory. I'm here today to talk to you about how to become a Spinnaker contributor. And just a note before I begin, um, I am going to share a lot of links today in this presentation, so I've decided to only make you remember one link. You can go to this link, github.com/spinnaker-hackathon/how to contribute, and I will share a summary of this presentation along with all the links I'm sharing so that you only need to write down that one link. So let's get started. I was searching for the right metaphor to use for this presentation. Like, how can I talk about something that continues to evolve as you work on it? It's a fluid process of continued investment. You're applying it, you're getting reward as you go, but then you have to do more work, more investment. It was tempting for me to go with some kind of Mad Max Fury Road metaphor, but that doesn't quite work. And the obvious comparison to me is one that you've heard me use before. Yes, I'm a tree hugger. Yes, I live in Portland. My family has a tiny farm and we grow our own vegetables as much as possible. So the metaphor that makes the most sense to me is a garden. When you're planting a garden, you start out by putting the work in and you really have no evidence that it's going to pay off. But if you work diligently, you are able to reap different benefits throughout the season. Each year brings different challenges. One year it's the powdery mildew. Next year you have aphids. Then it's some kind of rodent. You've got rabbits. You've got gophers. Then the weather just doesn't cooperate, right? And as you do this year after year, as you go through it, you learn over time how to adapt to the different conditions and you set up processes to more easily or routinely deal with the challenges as they come up, or better yet, you set up tools to prevent them and streamline your process over time. And over the years, your dividends also increase. The soil becomes richer and the produce becomes more bountiful. What we've learned since planting our first crops on the farm is that relationships add a ton of leverage to this process. So as we learn to grow grapes, for example, as total newbies, like reading about it is valuable, but joining the local viticultural community has been vital because our neighbors have dealt with the same issues in the same conditions and can give us the best advice. And as we've developed a community of friends in Oregon, we've gone from it taking days to do a harvest to neatly completing it in less than a day. When my parents need labor throughout the year to do the heavy lifting, they have folks to call on to help. And the cool thing about it is we all have a vested interest in it. We all eat the vegetables, we all taste the wine and enjoy the fruits of our labor. So we're really not working for free because we're getting something out of it. But at the same time, it's fun. We get to do something that we enjoy with others who feel the same way, and we get closer as a community. So my pitch to you is that open source is like a garden. And Spinnaker is a huge garden in the early years of its life. It offers so much possibility, so much area for growth and for rich return. And just like a garden, the Spinnaker project requires constant input to grow and thrive. We need you to join us to grow the project, provide feedback on it, help maintain it, and rise to leadership levels in the project. So let's talk about places to contribute, and I will share my screen now. So the first kind of no-brainer way to get involved in the community is to join us on Spinnaker Slack. This is our hub of asynchronous project communication, and as of today, it has 10,480 members. This is a great place to go as you enter the Spinnaker community to learn and get feedback as you discover Spinnaker and begin contributing. I'm going to talk more about specific channels and opportunities on this Slack throughout this talk. If you're coming into the Spinnaker community with some experience as a Spinnaker operator or user, an excellent way to contribute and to begin establishing your profile in the community is to begin answering questions that come up when you know the answer, or if you have some context that may be helpful, reach out to these folks in Slack who are looking for help and start engaging with them. So how can you start making other attainable contributions that really matter? First, I want to start off with some fundamentals. I want to talk first about the nuts and bolts of the Spinnaker stack. So when contributing to, oh yeah, first of all, when you're contributing to Spinnaker repositories, you're going to use a fork and pull request workflow. This is common to open source projects, so you're probably familiar with it. But in case you're not, I use this just as a cheat sheet for this workflow, and I'll share it in my repository. So much of Spinnaker's backend is written in Java, and the preferred backend languages are first Kotlin, but using Java is also totally acceptable. A significant portion of Spinnaker is also written in Groovy, and if you're ever working on things that touch those components, know that transforming the code that you touch into Java is a very welcome contribution as Groovy is deprecated. Deck, Spinnaker's front end, uses TypeScript and React, and there are some really good beginner-friendly UI issues. Oh, this is Deck. Yeah. So this is written in TypeScript and uses React. Um, so there are some really good UI issues in this list of issues tagged beginner friendly in GitHub. Another place to look at is the Spin CLI. The Spin CLI is written in Go, and this is a great place to begin contributing improvements for folks who don't want to make who don't want to work in Kotlin, Java, or TypeScript, but do want to make technical code contributions to the project. And also, if you have a passion for another tool in the SDLC that isn't currently integrated with Spinnaker, or if you desire a richer integration than what's available, Spinnaker's plugin framework, go here to the overview. Spinnaker's plugin framework gives you the opportunity to rapidly build a Spinnaker extension in Kotlin or Java using established extension points so that you don't have to dive deeply into Spinnaker's internals to extend it. You can learn more about this here in the plugin creators guide on spinnaker.io. And you can also check out our YouTube channel. We have a wonderful workshop here recently from Armory engineer Cameron on building your first plugin. Finally, if you are familiar with Kubernetes, there's a lot of exciting work happening in the Kubernetes SIG. So I'll go here in Slack, and I'm here in the SIG Kubernetes channel, as well as in the platforms SIG, which is working on automation for the deployment of Spinnaker itself on Kubernetes using the Spinnaker operator. This is currently lives in the Armory organization, but is open source and PR is welcome. Using the Spinnaker operator, customize a new tool called Cleat, which is used for managing Spinnaker configuration files. So lots of opportunity to contribute there. Here is the contributing page. Go to it here. Here's the contributing page that we recently updated to provide guidance on Spinnaker contributions. And this is a work in progress, and pull requests are welcome, all of these resources. So you'll need a development environment to develop and test technical Spinnaker contributions, and setting one up can be a challenge. To begin with, there are several different ways to install Spinnaker. So the classic method is to clone and install each Spinnaker service locally. This page provides a guide for this method. It uses the Halyard installation and management tool. This method is viable, but it does require a lot of local resources. We highly recommend using, and you should really have more than 18 gigabytes of RAM. 32 is the minimum that I've heard more recently. So that's a place to contribute here. This method can be quite challenging. So many developers have found that leveraging Kubernetes to install and manage Spinnaker services is faster and easier. So you can install Spinnaker in your Kubernetes cluster that runs in your cloud provider of choice. A considerable effort has been made to simplify this process for developers who are participating in Spinnaker Gardening Days, our hackathon program. And we've leveraged AWS's EKS along with telepresence to manage the communication between Spinnaker services when you're actively developing on your local machine and the rest of the Spinnaker cluster is running in Kubernetes and EKS. While AWS currently only offers free compute during gardening days, this training can always provide helpful guidance on using the operator and other tools to deploy and develop against Spinnaker. Another option for your development environment would be to install Miniker. This is a Spinnaker instance that runs in a Linux virtual machine on your local device using K3s under the hood. So this is a video. This here is a video instruction guide that I'll link you to for this method on spinnaker.io. But the instructions on GitHub are more current probably, and I think there's a new guide, a quick start guide in progress. We are working on developing more standards and easier methods to help you get fully set up to develop against Spinnaker quickly and easily. So please share your feedback on these methods or your own process in the You can share it in the Gardening General channel because there are lots of folks paying attention to it here. And you can also share it in the Dev Toolkit channel where some folks have less recently had conversations about developing a Dev Toolkit for Spinnaker. Whew. So what if you don't want to write code or you are looking for additional ways to participate? I want to start with the Spinnaker community blog. So let's say you have a blog that you're writing or you've already published about Spinnaker and you'd like for it to be featured on the Spinnaker community blog. We would love to help you with that. Make sure that you have a Medium account for posting it and reach out to me or reach out in the CX channel here on Spinnaker Slack and we'll help you get it published to the Spinnaker community blog. What could you post about? There are lots of ideas. Any of the Spinnaker Summit or Spinnaker Live talks have excellent content for you to dive into and share your takeaways from, but of course we care about your use cases the most. So do you use Spinnaker with Jenkins? Lots of people want to hear about that. Do you use Spinnaker with Kubernetes or do you deploy Spinnaker on Kubernetes? Share how you're doing these things, how you're working with Jenkins and why and what works for you and the point that you're at in your journey. Also, Spinnaker tutorials and videos are very helpful to develop for this project. So you can reach out to us in that same CX channel for help getting your tutorials and your videos onto the Spinnaker YouTube and other media channels that we have access to. We have a special need for short training videos that focus on one specific task or workflow in Spinnaker. And of course, beginner user tasks are welcome. We'd like to be able to string those together into training playlists. If you ever want to deliver a live Spinnaker tutorial or demo, or you want to get involved in other technical ambassadorship opportunities such as meetups, one option is to become a CDF Ambassador. So this program is organized by Spinnaker's parent organization, the Continuous Delivery Foundation, and will allow you to network and join with, will allow you to network and join with folks working in our sister projects, Jenkins, Tecton, Screwdriver, and work on interoperability initiatives or what you're interested with the populations that you care about. Now, where else can you tell your story? I'm here on the success stories page on spinnaker.io, and there's a super easy way here to add value. You can write a simple testimonial. It only takes a few minutes. You fill out the form that's linked here, submit, and then you're done. We have a lot of nice ones already on here. And this page is on spinnaker.io, which is our project website and documentation hub. And it also happens to be an excellent place to contribute. So speaking of tutorials, we could really use new content added to, we could really use new content added to our guides area. Tutorials, welcome here. And we have several code labs here that are out of date. There's plenty of room for you to share new labs that give a more current view of Spinnaker functionality and capabilities. So show us what you got. And more generally, Spinnaker documentation has a lot of room to grow with more detailed explanations of processes and architecture. So pull requests are welcome. We also have a need for process visualizations. So if you can share screenshots or illustrations of a process or concept that you think would benefit from a deeper explanation, please do. Now you might ask, is there a way to contribute just by highlighting work that needs to be done, even if you can't or don't have time to do it? Yes, this is where issues come in. So the code labs that I'm showing you here are a perfect example of this. So I'll go to one of the code labs, and as I'm walking through it, if I get stuck or if I find something that's clearly out of date, the best thing to do there is to simply file an issue, and that will queue up you or another contributor to add value and with a clearly scoped contribution without taking the time to investigate it first. So file issues and comment on issues when you have context on them to add to your expertise, like to add your expertise to the conversation, even if you can't solve the problem. So when you do notice an issue, or something that doesn't look right, you can first head to the Spinnaker issue tracker. This is the Spinnaker issue tracker here. And first you should search to see if an issue already exists for what you've noticed. Now, one clarification here. All the issues for the Spinnaker project are consolidated into this Spinnaker repository issues area in the Spinnaker org, and then they're tagged with different areas of specialization, except for spinnaker.github.io. That's our documentation and website. And this is the only Spinnaker repository that currently manages its own issue tracker here. For your information, this location itself is going to change soon because we're currently migrating Spinnaker.io to another static site generator, Hugo. The migration will be complete this year in 2020, and the new site is Spinnaker.io in the same Spinnaker organization. Documentation SIG is considering migrating issue maintenance of the new site to the Spinnaker repository where all the other project issues are so that it's consistent. If you have feedback, we haven't made a decision yet. If you have feedback on this, please share it with us in the SIG documentation channel on Slack, and we would love to engage with you about it. Speaking of that, I keep using this acronym SIG. What is a SIG? And by the way, who's going to deal with all of these issues that I'm telling you to file? A SIG is an acronym for a special interest group, and this is a fundamental part of Spinnaker's governance structure. There are 12 active and approved SIGs currently. SIGs meet periodically to discuss their interest area, and SIG leaders take on additional project maintenance duties such as reviewing pull requests and responding to issues related to their area of interest or expertise. Each SIG has its own Slack channel, and all of the SIG Slack channels begin with SIG dash, so that's an easy way to browse them. And in these channels, active SIG participants and leads talk asynchronously between meetings to collaborate on projects, provide help to the community, and discuss issues that are relevant to their area of interest. Now, some of these channels are more active than others, but they are all periodically active and they're not tied to any one event or period of time. The SIG leaders also meet periodically with the Technical Oversight Committee to address project matters and things that, so this is the Technical Oversight Committee, or TOC for short. You can read more about this in Spinnaker's governance documentation in the governance repository. SIG leads and Technical Oversight Committee will get together to talk about issues that affect multiple SIGs or are of great consequence to the project. And we talked a moment ago about issues, and some of you watching this may have had the experience of submitting an issue to Spinnaker and not receiving a response, or if you did, the issue might have stalled and became stale. It's so sad when this happens, and it's one of the reasons that I'm here talking about this with you today. So let's keep talking about it. Now, how can you get involved? You can show up in a SIG channel or at a SIG meeting. When I say SIG meeting, there's a calendar of all the SIG meetings here that's linked on the SIGs page that I showed you a minute ago. Yep, this is the SIG calendar. It shows you all the different meeting times. You can go into those meetings or the channels, ask the questions that you're curious about, ask for context, explain how you might want to get involved, talk about what your connection to Spinnaker is. If a SIG meeting is set at a time that you can't attend because of your time zone, reach out in the SIG channel to engage and ask for a SIG meeting recording so that you can review the meeting content async. If you're contributing regularly and you really want to engage live, I would consider proposing that your SIG rotate meeting times across time zones, as many global open source projects do. The reason that it's so important for me to tell you about SIGs now is that our SIGs are typically the folks responsible for issue triage and response within their areas of interest and expertise. And there's a huge area of opportunity for folks to join SIGs, learn and understand the project context through the SIGs work, and then use that to attain leadership roles in the project over time. And the project really needs to do a better job of nurturing people into those roles, passing our institutional knowledge on to them, and also just lowering the barriers to entry to help you get set up to succeed. Now, speaking of that, not all of the Spinnaker SIGs are just for code. We mentioned the documentation SIG, and that is an excellent place to begin your Spinnaker contribution journey. There are also SIGs for each major cloud provider. And your feedback on deployment issues, tool use, and challenges is super valuable there, even if you're not actively building any solutions. There is even a Spinnaker Summit SIG, which will work with the Linux Foundation events team to plan the summit and make it a great experience for you. And there's one last non-code SIG that's proposed, currently going through the approval process, that I would like to talk about because I'm really excited about it. So this is the Contributor Experience SIG proposal. The Contributor Experience SIG aims to work to make the project a more welcoming, accessible, and productive space for all contributors, new and old. So what if you don't have a good experience as a newcomer to Spinnaker? What if it doesn't work out? What if you have an idea or something that would make the project itself more welcoming or effective? This SIG will be there to listen, to receive your feedback, to assist you if it's possible, and to also work with SIGs and governance to improve the experience for all contributors over time. So if you're passionate about the contributor experience or you have any feedback on this for now, you can reach out at this point in the CX channel on Spinnaker Slack and engage with us about it. And um, introduce yourself to us and just share any feedback that you have. We'd love that. The CXSIG will also be working on creating a new project contributor role. So when I say role, there's a role structure here that has fewer qualifications for newcomers. And also they'll be working on recognizing and rewarding new contributions as they come in so that you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel celebrated when you contribute. This is coming soon and it's super important. Now, what's the benefit of attaining one of these roles in a Spinnaker project? Or what's the benefit of contributing at all? DevOps knowledge and expertise in any capacity in the SDLC has a ton of value in the marketplace, and the community is a chance to learn from your peers and gain more of that context. You will have the opportunity to work with developers from AWS, Microsoft, Salesforce, Netflix, Autodesk, Target, Spotify, Adobe, Oracle, Datadog, IBM, the Home Depot, Huawei, many, many more to solve shared problems around the software development lifecycle. And this is a great networking opportunity for you. This tool, Spinnaker, has the prestige and buy-in from enterprise companies as diverse as Airbnb and JP Morgan Chase. So this really matters on your resume. And the face of this project is evolving. So you can be part of growing it into a new generation of software leaders, bringing developer empowerment to the world and really understanding the power of that. The project does have some rough edges right now, and your experience may not always be smooth. We are sorry about that. This means that you have the opportunity to be essential in the change that needs to come. So we will work to open the doors to you and create an on-ramp that makes you more successful while you build the project. One of the areas that we're specifically trying to improve in the short term is to adopt an open source roadmap process. This is a process created in the Jenkins community. And why does it matter? Ooh, this is a rollout plan. Oops, I went too far. Yeah. So we're trying to adopt this process that was created in the Jenkins community that will allow us to present you with clearly scoped issues that are codified in Git and tied to specific strategic priorities set by the steering committee to help you see how you can contribute and how those contributions matter. Why do they matter to the project in the big picture, and what's the story behind them? There's a session about the open source roadmap planning in the November 11th on November 11th as part of the gardening days. So check that out on the Spinnaker Summit schedule, and please join us for that on the Kiko platform. An exciting development this year for Spinnaker has been our launch of Spinnaker Gardening Days. So this event has been organized by Armory in collaboration with the community and partners like AWS and Salesforce, and of course, the Continuous Delivery Foundation. If you would like to get started as a contributor in a nurturing and fun environment with a cohort of others who are kind of going through the same thing and exploring the project, these events are an awesome opportunity for you to do that and also earn prizes and rewards and recognition while you're doing it. We're currently in the middle of our third gardening days of 2020, the Summit Gardening Days, and I'm sure that we'll offer more of these events in 2021. All right. So I want to get back to gardening and my metaphor for just a second, and also to the work and the input that the project needs from all of you and all of us to grow and thrive. So Netflix and Google have planted the seeds and they've done the early nurturing of the project. Companies like Armory and OpsMX have come along to add expertise and also to be the voice of the enterprise in the project to make sure that it can meet the use cases that we see in the marketplace. But the voices that we still need many, many more of are your voices. So we're looking for more people who work in all kinds of companies in different roles that touch the software development lifecycle and with different backgrounds and diverse perspectives that will help elevate, that we can elevate in the project and that will elevate the project. And I believe only then will the project really reach its true potential. when the voice of the customer and the voice of the user developer becomes a bigger part of the product and the decision-making process around it. So this is an opportunity for you to build your career and establish a public profile that supports your company's success, but is also something that you own and you can carry with you as your career progresses. It's super powerful. The relationships and connections that you develop, the impressions that you make, that can help you attract opportunities. It can help you get help and find collaborators when you need them and bring a lot of worthwhile value to your professional profile. It's not easy, but for those who have made their careers on their impact to open source or who have brought their knowledge of an open source ecosystem to their company and used it to make transformational change, this is totally worth it. Now, lastly, I want to wrap up by talking a little bit about why I care about this. I believe that software has the power to change the world. Software is one of the best and the fastest ways to influence people to change their behaviors, habits, and routines. It has already shown a remarkable ability to transform our societies, and we're not even that good at building it yet. I mean, we are, but those of us in DevOps know how much better it is going to get and how much better software could be. So if you can help people change their behaviors, their habits, and routines in a low friction way, then you can ultimately, you have the ability to influence their beliefs too. And we've seen this a lot with social media all over the world, for example. And when you think about the problems that we face as a global species, climate change, economic insustainability and destabilization, the pandemic that's currently happening, justice and public safety, getting people to change their behaviors, habits, routines, and their beliefs, this is going to be a huge part of any solution for any of these problems. There's no way that technology will not play a role. And this is scary. Like many people feel really worried and are afraid of the danger that technology poses in this way. The way I look at it, that means that those of us who are already working in technology, and especially those of us who are literally deciding how software gets made, we have an incredible responsibility. The only way that we can be part of these solutions in a way that actually works, that is sustainable, that's human, that confronts its bias and represents our species, is to make sure that we have adequate representation in these spaces where we're building solutions. We need all the ingenuity, we need all of the perspective and all of the productive conflict, all the checks and balances that diverse voices bring. Otherwise, we're going to fail. We're going to build solutions that don't solve the problems or that make the problems much worse. I believe it's our responsibility to do the work to build an equitable space where software can be made. If we do that, we have the potential to share resources equitably through technology to find solutions that don't come with trade-offs and to envision and enact the future in a way that we can barely imagine now in 2020. So I ask you, don't give up. We can do this. And when I say we can do this, I don't mean we can do Spinnaker. Kelsey Hightower always cautions me against getting too tied to a particular tool, a particular ecosystem or community, because tools change, technologies change and evolve. So what we really need to focus on are the people who make those technologies possible, the people who make these collaborations possible. And we can stay connected as people as projects evolve and come and go. So I think we can do this. I think we can only do this together. Help us build and sustain a true round table that transcends Spinnaker and that will help us change the course of history through software. I want to do it, and I know you do too. Thanks for joining me today, and reach out if you need any help as a Spinnaker contributor. Bye.